Hi there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today we're talking about the Pearson Foundations of Reading test. This is part 2, where we go through the constructed response portion of the exam. Let's get started. So today is going to be another writing video, and we're going to focus specifically on the Pearson Foundations of Reading constructed response section. Now, I've done a little digging, and it seems to me that the constructed response is always the same. Now, it may ask you different questions, but I believe the task is always the same, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, in the comments, if you've taken the Pearson Foundations of Reading and you got a completely different prompt, let me know in the comments. Please don't share your exact prompt because that's against the rules, but you can give us kind of an overview like, no, it actually had to do with X, Y, or Z, okay? Now let's hop over to my computer so I can show you the type of constructed response you are most likely going to be responsible for. And then again, if you took this test and you found your constructed response to be completely different, let us know in the comments so I can investigate further. All right. So when we take a look at our constructed response, we can see right here, this whole section here is what I like to call a running record. That's what we called it when I was a reading teacher. It may also be called a fluency read, but basically it's a piece of text that a student reads out loud to you. And as the student reads, you, the teacher, make little notes above the area where the student is reading. And then notice here we have the key. And then you have all these different kind of things that you would use to mark miscues. And we call them miscues because it means like a mess up. Now you can see here that the student is reading and then above are all the notes that the teacher made. And then we have this narrative here. Usually, now I've looked at all of the constructed responses for all of the Pearson Foundations of Reading for all the different states. So Wisconsin, North Carolina, several states use this test. They all had the same constructed response in the test specifications. So I'm going to go with that this is going to be your constructed response. The only thing that I saw change were the mistakes that the student made inside this fluency read or running record. So this passage right here changes and the mistakes the student makes change. However, this task for you remains the same. Now, again, if you found that to be something totally different, let me know in the comments below so I can investigate further. So we have this little thing here. Jonathan is a 3rd grade student, reads aloud a passage from an unfamiliar story. As he reads, the teacher notes his performance, that's really important, on a separate copy of the story. So basically, if you're not a reading teacher, you wouldn't know this, but this is a common practice, okay? The student reads from his or her little reading passage. Usually it's laminated and you use it over and over again. And then you as the teacher have a paper copy where you then mark on that copy. And then you go over the mess ups or the miscues with the student. We often call that a miscue analysis. So your job is to not only listen to the student read and indicate any miscues, but then analyze what types of miscues the student made and then diagnose. So I actually really like this task because it is a performance task. And this is something that's really important for you to do as a reading teacher. You have to listen to the student read and then determine what issues the student has in the reading and then diagnose and prescribe the proper intervention. So this is really what reading teachers do every day. And this is a formative assessment and it's a very powerful tool. Now, here's where the task comes into hand. Using your knowledge of word identification strategies, and now this has been the same across all the states that I looked at in their blueprint. So word identification strategies, and then they give you examples here. Phonics, analysis of word structure. I usually call that structure analysis. Context clues, identification of sight words. Notice they're prompting you here. They're giving you several things you can talk about. You don't have to write this from scratch. Write a response in which you, and then these bullets are always the same. Identify Jonathan's strengths, identify Jonathan's weaknesses, and then be sure to cite specific evidence. Remember, we always want to be talking about that specific evidence, okay? Now let's take a look at the rubric so we understand exactly how we get a passing grade on this task. Okay, so this is from the test specification for Connecticut, but it looks the same for Wisconsin, looks the same for any state that's using the Foundations of Reading assessment. And let's just go through, let's shoot for a 4, okay? Let's say that we really want to get a 4 on this writing exam. So the 4 reflects a thorough knowledge and understanding of subject matter. Well, if we go back to this writing task, you can see here that your knowledge really needs to come from word identification strategies. And then it gives you those examples: phonics, analysis of word structure, contents clues, and sight words. Now, you should know those if you are taking this exam. And of course, those are addressed in all of our videos and also in our books and everything else. So you're going to want to use those words and that knowledge when answering this particular question and when writing for this task. Now let's take a look at the 4 bullets under the score of 4. And we have the purpose of the assignment is fully achieved. What does that mean? Well, let's go back. You have done these 3 tasks. You've identified one of Jonathan's strengths. So you've done this, check. You've identified one of Jonathan's weaknesses, check. Notice it says 1, not 5, 1. Just 1, that's it. And the third is to be sure to cite specific evidence. So if you can go check, 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 you've achieved that, all right? Now let's go to the next bullet. The supporting evidence is sound. There are high quality, relevant examples. Now, what does that mean? That means when you identify a strength, you're going to say, according to his reading, he sounds out this word, or he does X, Y, and Z. You point directly to the passage and show where that is happening. Be specific. And I'm going to show you that in our writing example. But that's how you get that 4, is that specific evidence inside the passage, because they want to know that you're able to diagnose specifically what the student is doing wrong and how you can help the student. And now the 4th bullet says the response reflects an ably reasoned, comprehensive understanding of the topic. That's kind of like a repeat of the 2nd bullet. Now to get a 4, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is make sure, number 1, you complete the task entirely. That means you find a strength, you find a weakness, and you cite evidence from the reading, okay? The second thing you have to do is be specific and use your word recognition knowledge. So that's going to be, does the student know his or her sight words? Can the student break down words, morphology, or we often call it structural analysis? Maybe the student is using prefixes and suffixes properly. Maybe the student is using syllables properly, or using phonics properly, or improperly. If we're looking for the weakness, you want to be specific and cite those word recognition skills specifically, okay? I cannot be more clear. Specific, specific, specific. That's how you get a high score on this writing task. And finally, what you want to be able to do is make sure that it is comprehensible, it's overarching, and that you were able to convey your ideas clearly and in an organized manner. And it's super easy for this test because they basically do it for you. Let me show you how it's done. Okay, so we've taken our Pearson Foundations of Reading. We're now at the constructed response section. We see our, running record here. I call this RR running record, or you might call it a fluency read. We know we're going to get something like this, so we are prepared. And these bullets here are always the same. I'm going to find a strength, I'm going to find a weakness, and I'm going to cite specific evidence here, okay? So what I want to do is take a look at this running record. Where is this student kind of messing up or miscuing? And where is the student doing a good job? Now notice the bullets here. This is going to be paragraph 1 and this is going to be paragraph 2. We're going to do 1 paragraph on strengths, 1 paragraph on weaknesses. That is it. No need for an intro, no need for a conclusion. Just get right in and do the task. And notice, I read the task first. Before I get all lost in this running record situation, go down to the bottom and figure out what they're asking you to do. Now, again, I believe it's going to be the same on every test. You're going to have to do these 3 things. But if you got a different task or situation, let me know in the comments so I can find that out. All right, so let's take a look at this running record right here. And I'm just going to zoom in so we can take a look. Now, do I have to read this whole thing? No, I do not. I'm pressed for time. I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about, and then I have time to write this. So I don't need to do that. What I want to do is just look at the mess ups here. Notice that this student is breaking down big words here. Summer, mountain, allowance, newspaper, those types of things, shoebox, okay? He's kind of breaking up those words and he's doing it properly. So if I'm going to quickly find a strength, I'm going to say, wow, this kid is taking the bigger words, breaking them down, and actually using his morphology or structural analysis to do so. You could say using syllables to do so. When I say morphology, morphology is breaking up words into smaller pieces so you can sound them out either by syllables or compound words. You can see here newspaper. He breaks up that compound word. Shoe box. He breaks up that compound word. And then you go to other words like summer, mountain, and allowance. Look at this word here. That's a big word, right? And he's just a third grader. So allowance. He used syllables there to break it up and he did it correctly. So right away, I'm going to zoom in on those strengths and I can see that the bigger words and his use of morphology and structural analysis is doing him a service. That is really good. And so we're going to focus on that for paragraph 1. And then I can see as we go through, he's actually messing up. Look at this. He changed out what to went. Notice that this is what the student says. If you look at the key down here, when you write something above the word, it's what the student substitutes in. So you can see that he's substituting in went for what, will for would, though for through, let's see here. Ever for every, any for enough, dealing for delivering, can for good. He's kind of messing up his easier words, his sight words, those high frequency words. So that's where I would go with this. Okay. So he's doing good on the big words, but he's not doing so great on the high frequency sight words that he needs in order to achieve that automaticity. So again, this is a formative assessment. We're identifying strengths and weaknesses. Paragraph number 1 is going to be strengths. Paragraph number 2 is going to be weaknesses. And what I would probably do if I were doing this test and I had my scratch paper, I would quickly write down 1 strength and I would quickly write down 1 weakness, not 5. 1, okay? That is it. Keep it simple. That is going to be the key here. Keep it simple, all right? Now, this did come from the Pearson Education Inc. Blueprint for Wisconsin, but I've seen it, the same one in many other states, okay? So for my strength, I have breaks up multi-syllable words using structural analysis. You might call it morphology. You might call it syllabication, whatever you call it in your classroom. And then his weaknesses, he misses easy words or sight words, or we also call those high frequency words, all right? Now, I've done my first part of the task. I've identified a strength and I've identified a weakness. Now I need to write it and cite specific examples. Let me show you what that looks like. All right, so let's take a look at the way I wrote it. Now, according to Jonathan's Fluency Analysis, so right here is citing specific evidence, and I called it Fluency Analysis. I also put /running record. You can determine what you want to call it. His strength is in breaking down complex words. Notice I go right to what I'm trying to say here. I don't write 3 sentences like kind of beating around the bush and going, well, blah, blah, blah. Just go, his strength is this, period, end of story. That's what I'm talking about here, okay? He uses structural analysis and morphology to sound out and pronounce multi-syllable words. You might even say he uses skills to sound out multi-syllable words. You may not say morphology or structural analysis. You might just say using his skills to sound out. That's okay too. You might be a brand new teacher and you don't know all these fancy words, structural analysis and morphology. However, I do recommend, after you go through this video that you get to know these words. We have courses on them. We have YouTube videos on them. I'll link them up here. But words like structural analysis, morphology, those types of skills are, all over any type of reading exam, and it's a big part of your job. So make sure you know those. And then notice I go here. For example, now I'm getting into the specific detail. In the beginning of the passage, he breaks up summer into, and then I go summer, and mountain into mountain. He even breaks down the word allowance properly using syllables. Notice that I used 3 specific examples there to support his use of morphology. I went right into the passage, said the word he sounded out, and gave that specific example. He uses morphology to break up compound words like shoebox and newspaper into distinct morphemes. This is a valuable skill, and Jonathan should receive positive feedback about this so he continues to use these strategies when reading complex text. Now, for me, the last sentence of this paragraph might be something like this. You may just want to have that to be your go-to. He should receive positive feedback in these areas so he continues to do these things, right? We want him to continue to use these skills. So I'd be like, Jonathan, wow, you really nailed these huge words. Good job. You used your structural analysis, your syllables, your sounding out skills. Awesome job. You really worked on those big words, and good job. Keep that up. That's that specific feedback where we talked about specific words, and he's going to continue to do that. Very, very good. Now let's go into the weakness. Now here's a good way to start the second paragraph. While Jonathan can sound out larger words like allowance and mountain, Jonathan's weakness is with recognizing his high frequency words. You might say sight words. You might say tier 1 words. Remember, tier 1 words are sight words. Tier 2 words are words like mountain, words like compound. And tier 3 words are things like mitochondria, cellular membrane, things that are specific to an academic area, okay? But high frequency words are tier 1 words. They happen all over the text, and he's having trouble with that. So notice I did this little kind of transition. While Jonathan can sound out his larger words, he's having a hard time with his high frequency words. He misses words like where, what, and could. The fact that he does not self-correct, now this is something I saw also in the passage. Let's take a look at this. There is an area for self-correction here, this little C with a circle around it. Nowhere does he do that. I don't think anywhere in there does he self-correct. So that is something else we can put towards the weakness, but apply it to the weakness. We're saying that he doesn't have a command of his high frequency words, right? And that he does not self-correct. I'm not labeling another weakness. I'm just using that as an example or as a specific thing from the text that I'm using to support that. So he does not self-correct when he miscues on these words, may be a result of him reading too quickly. So now I'm trying to diagnose a little bit. He may be going too quickly and he's just going over those sight words and not really looking at them properly. This is a problem because he may not even be aware he's making this mistake. Because he's not self-correcting, he doesn't know he's making the mistake, okay? Also, missing these high-frequency words can impede his comprehension. That's pretty much for anything. Any problem a student is having, no matter what the weakness is, it can impede comprehension. So this sentence right here, impede his comprehension, or this weakness can impede his comprehension, is something you can use in any of these tasks, okay? So that might be one of your staples that you use as well. One way Jonathan can develop better skills in this area is to memorize high frequency words. Notice I'm diagnosing and prescribing an intervention. It's not part of the rubric, but it does help to round out this paragraph. This can be done using flashcards during centers in class or at home. Another strategy would be encourage him to slow down and self-correct when he miscues on high frequency words. So again, to end the paragraph, I kind of prescribe an intervention or a solution to this problem. Because in the first paragraph, I talked about he should be praised or be given positive feedback. For the second paragraph, to make it parallel, maybe I also prescribe some sort of solution there. All right. Now, these 2 paragraphs do everything we're supposed to do. It gives the strength, the weakness, specific examples. It's organized. I like the 2 paragraphs, the first paragraph for strength, the second paragraph for weakness. And then, of course, it cites specific examples in the text. That's how you do this task. All right, so we have the task again, using your knowledge of word identification. And again, they give you examples you can use: phonics analysis, word structure, use of context clues, identification of sight words. Write a response which you identify one of Daniel's strengths, one of Daniel's weaknesses, and cite specific evidence. Again, same task, just a different student with different strengths and weaknesses. That's it. Okay, so let's take a look at this running record and see where the strengths and the weaknesses are for Daniel. All right, so let's zoom in, and you can see here that he doesn't mess up a whole lot of the time. There's a big portion of the passage where he's reading fluently. And where he does mess up or miscue, he self-corrects, right? Because this little C with a circle around it is self-correction. And that's really important. That's actually a strength because the student is reading, realizes that he's made a mistake, and then self-corrects. Very, very important when learning to read. And also, it looks like he's reading through most of the text very well. So I'm going to say that his strength is self-correction here. And then one of the weaknesses I'm going to go through is that he, is missing some of these bigger words here, these tier 2 words, maybe tier 3. I don't see any tier 3 words, but tier 2 words he's missing. So some of the bigger words he's missing, and some of them he doesn't always self-correct, and he actually, like in this one, he completely substitutes the wrong word, misses this word daydreamed, completely substitutes the wrong word here. So I'm going to say his weakness lies with his bigger words, okay? So let's see what that looks like when we write our paragraph. Whoa, that's a little big. Let's go back out here. Sorry about that. All right. So according to Daniel's Fluency Analysis running record, his strength is in his self-correction. All right, so there's his strength. I've identified that. Overall, he reads through most of the passage without miscues. That's good. However, when he makes mistakes, he self-corrects most of the time. According to the document, he miscues 13 times, and he miscues mostly on complex words. Again, I am being specific. 13 times means I counted how many times are in there. He self-corrects 8 of those times. Now, I might even make this even better. I might even say something like, for example, on the word goldfish, he miscued and then self-corrected. On the word sunshine, he miscued and then self-corrected. You can even go as specific as that. But the fact that I said he miscues 13 times and self-corrects 8 of those times, that is specific and specific enough for this task. This means he has automaticity in his high frequency words and in many of his tier 2 words, and is able to identify when he makes mistakes with his complex words. He should receive positive feedback in this area so he continues to identify his own errors and self-correct. Again, kind of my staple ending, giving the student praise for what the student did properly and making sure that we reinforce those good strategies that the student's going to learn to self-correct or do whatever to be a better reader. All right. Now let's go. So we've done our strengths. Now we're looking for our weaknesses here. Here we go. While Daniel made few mistakes in the passage, the mistakes he did make all occurred with complex words. Unfortunately, he did not come close to pronouncing those words correctly. While he did self-correct on many of his miscues, there were times when he missed words completely. This can have a negative impact on comprehension. One strategy Daniel can work on to fix this issue is to use his semantic cueing system. For example, here comes that specifics. He miscues after the dialogue, "Are you hungry?" Daniel should use the meaning around hunger to help him with the word container of food instead of counter of food. Activating the semantic cueing system will help him in many of these areas where he miscued. Okay, again, notice I used a specific area in the text where he miscued, which was around that dialogue, "Are you hungry?" And then he missed that container and he called it a counter of food. And I say use that semantic cueing system, that meaning. Remember, semantic means meaning. And if you don't know what these cueing systems are, I will link up a video for you to get that information. Really important that you know the 3 cueing systems, which are the semantic, the syntactic, and the graphophonic. And that is in our videos. And that's in the description below, and it's up here in the information, wherever that is. And so I offer a strategy and I offer a specific area in which he miscues. So all of this checks the box. First, we have our strength. Second, we have our weakness. And third, we have cited specific examples in the text where this is happening. And we offer, this is a little bit extra, this was not part of the task, we offer a little bit of a solution for the areas of weakness. And we offer, use that positive feedback to help him continue with those good strategies that helps to round out your paragraphs at the end. All right, so hopefully that helps you with the constructed response for the Pearson Foundations of Reading. Remember, this is applicable for any writing task. You want to go straight to the task first. Notice that we went straight to the bullets. What am I being asked to do? I'm being asked to identify a strength, I'm being asked to identify a weakness, and I'm being asked to cite specific examples. Then I'm very direct in my passages. I don't have a lot of extra sentences. I go right to what I'm trying to say, and I use those specific examples to support my claims I make in my writing. Very, very, very important there. So use these strategies for any writing task that you may be required to do on any teacher certification exam. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And in the comments below, let us know your experience with the Pearson Foundations of Reading Constructed Response and if we're on the right track here. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your colleagues we're here. Thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day.